Hey, it's Dr. Amanda with StraightSmile Solutions, StraightSmileSolutions.com, and today I wanted to talk to you. Actually, I want to answer a question that I get a lot of questions from a lot of dental students, medical students, college students about going into the field of dentistry, going into the field of orthodontics. So I'm going to go ahead and just address all of that, tips, tricks, what to do, what not to do, what I would do different if I had to do it all over again. So granted, I finished college in 1996. We didn't even barely have internet back then. We barely had email. We definitely didn't have social media. Things were really, really, really different than they are now. So everything's different. What would I do different? First of all, I was really dumb. No one gave me the right advice. Maybe I didn't know. I think now with all the forums and message boards, you can get a lot of really good advice, good and bad. I had no one really to ask questions to. I was interested in medicine. And the idea of going into medicine, but I was always also very interested in dentistry. The part of dentistry I liked was the aesthetic part, not the drill and fill part at all. I knew that was not what I wanted to do. So stupid me did something dumb that I would never recommend anyone does. I applied to both dental and medical school. So I took the MCAT, did pretty good, probably could have gotten in. Took the DAT, did really well on that. Definitely knew I could pretty much get in anywhere with the DAT scores. I took both tests. They're very different tests. So, there's some overlap, but you have to the DAT has a perceptual section, and it has a few other sections that the MCAT doesn't have. And then there's a lot of sections that are on the DAT. I think the DAT is way easier. It's very similar to the GRE, actually, except for the perceptual section, which was something I did really well on. So I felt pretty good applying. Don't apply to both. You will get 100%. Medical schools don't care, but you'll get 100% blackballed by the dental schools if and when they find out. And I think now it's even easier to find out. They asked me straight out in a few applications, and I was told that if they find out and you lie, you'll be blackballed permanently from dental school. So I was honest. I just was like, I'm interested in both, just applying, see how it goes. Big no, never do that. I ended up getting blackballed from almost every school, even though by far I had the grades and scores to get in, hands down. I would have gotten in everywhere and probably gotten way better package, financial aid package, had I not done that. So in hindsight, and that's the issue. If you apply to medical school, don't get in, apply to dental school the next year, you're still going to be blackballed. So you really need to think hard because they will find out. They do not want people who are using dentistry as a second career because they didn't get into medicine. So my suggestion is you really sit down. You can take the MCAT, see how you do. If you didn't score like an amazing score, like a very, very good score, don't apply. Just saying, you know what, this isn't going to happen. I'm going to do dental school. And then you can say you never applied. So that would be my suggestion if you want to give it a shot. I think for a lot of people, medical school is really competitive to get into. Personally, I'm glad I didn't go now that I think about it because, it is so incredibly not only competitive to get into, but once you're in, it's cutthroat. Dental school was not that cutthroat, and I can go over that later. I really, really enjoyed it, actually. It was significantly so easy for me in relative to college. I thought, and I went to the number one dental school, UCSF, in the world, basically. So they were super brilliant people. I just thought dental school was super easy. So medical school also, you're going to go, everyone does a residency. Everyone has to match. Obviously, the gunners are going to do surgery and certain types of specialties. The lower level students are going to do primary care. For me, ultimately, I was like, do I really want, and you got to think about the quality of your life too. You're going to go to residency for 3 to 10 years with fellowship. You're going to be in school bare minimum till you're 31 if you go straight. Maybe okay for a female, but if you want to have a family, things are going to get really different, and you're going to have crazy student loans. You're barely going to see your kids because you're going to have to be working unless you're independently wealthy. It's going to really change the quality of your life. And as a female, I think you really need to think about, these are things I didn't think about. You need to think about, what's your plan? What's your vision? Do you see yourself getting married, having kids? How invested do you want to be in your kids' lives? For me, I did go on to orthodontic residency. That's a whole nother story. We'll get into that in a few minutes. Fascinating, loved it. Didn't graduate till I was 30, and I went straight. So if you go boom, boom, straight, that's that, you will be borrowing money in dental residency. Dental residency is rarely paid, So for most of them, ours wasn't bad. It was one of the most affordable. I think I had to pay tuition the first year. Then after that, I only had to borrow room and board. And I think the third year they paid us like $8,000, but you still had to borrow. So maybe I borrowed like $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 for residency for 3 years. Not bad. Some people borrow $200,000, and I maybe had $150,000 in student loans from undergrad, which is not bad. So I mean, $200,000 in student loans is not bad for 7 years. It's not bad at all. I'm still paying mine off, but it's a 1.25% interest rate, so I don't care. So I'm in no hurry to pay that off. I think I've got another 5 years of it. But anyways, things to think about. How do you see the quality of your life? Obviously, if you're a dude, it's probably less of an issue than if you're a female. Residency is tough. Dental school is still tough. You're going to be very busy. You're not going to have time to have kids. It's not the right thing to do. I think that's wrong. There were some people that had kids in dental school and in residency. They never saw their kids. I think that's wrong. I wouldn't do that. But that was just a conscious decision I made. But anyways, so dental school was great. I really loved my school, like really, really loved my school. UCSF, I would totally recommend it. I just thought it was it's a public school, you know, so it's a lot of California residents. It's very hard to get in out of state. I was a California resident. You have to really be focused in college if you're not staying in your state of residency or state of where you're from. You know, if you're from Oklahoma and you don't go to college in Oklahoma, you need to make sure you keep your residency even when you go off to college. That means you shouldn't be buying a car in the other location, driver's license, everything should be still based in your home state, because you're going to lose your residency, and that's really helps to make things way more affordable. So things to keep in mind, even if you're only 18, 17 years old, if you are thinking about doing postgraduate professional school, you know, you want to keep your residency, because that's going to be your most affordable way, is to do in-state, wherever your in-state is. So things to think about. I remember I had to drive my car from California to Missouri in order to keep it in-state. Yeah. So what else? Yeah, loved UCSF. Really nice people, really, really diverse, friendly, fun, really smart people, great facilities, really not negative energy at all, which to me is huge. I pick colleges, sounds kind of, you know, really cloudy, but I mean, I like to feel the energy of people, how positive people are. Are they willing to help you if you have a problem? I really felt like, after hearing a lot of other people's dental school stories, I really, really liked my school. And like, I think if you polled our students, everyone would have said that they loved it. They really, really loved the teachers, the program directors. They really went out of their way to make sure if you had issues or concerns, that you were taken care of, that they created a nurturing place for you to learn. I didn't feel that threat that a lot of people have in dental school. There are a lot of dental schools that you go to where ours was, I don't know if it's still this way, but ours was done by RVUs, relative value units. You had like a minimum threshold. You had to get on certain procedures in third and fourth year. Like you had to do at least one bridge, at least 1 or 2 endos, at least 1 or 2 dentures. I can't remember what they were. But then regardless, you had to do RVUs. So you had to get your points basically. So however you got your points, you got it. So if you were someone that really liked to do crowns, you could do a lot of crowns, right? You could do a lot of cosmetic fillings. You could do a lot of onlays. You can get your points one of many different ways. Sometimes you have very little control as to what walks into your lap, you know, and you can trade patients and stuff like that. But the idea is, it took a lot of stress away because I wasn't constantly looking for certain things. It was really easy to get the minimum requirements. RVUs you can get from a variety of different ways. I just felt like there was very little stress. There was always an abundance of patients. We had night clinic, which we started in second year to really serve the community. I love doing that. We got to do rotations and externships. We went to the Indian Health Reservation. We spent a month, you know, off-site. I think they still do a lot of that. It started with our year. I loved it. It was so fun to get to do some traveling and really do a lot of hands-on work. So anyways, dental school was great. Didn't borrow that much money. Loved living in San Francisco. Loved my school. So hoping to have an opportunity to get back there. Residency was a different story. I love ortho. It's hard, you know, to get into a good residency program, especially the top residency programs like ortho, OS, endo, even pedo is harder to get into now. Very competitive. We used a match system, which was very similar to, if you've done sorority rush, it's very similar, you know, system where you apply, then you go interview, and in a very short period of time, you're going to rank your schools, they're going to rank you, and then on a certain day at a certain time, boom, you get an email, and that's where you're going. No changes. So it was really fun, definitely, the match system. I ended up going to University of Connecticut, which I think was my second choice. No, I'm saying that. It wasn't my first choice. I'm not going to say what my first choice was, but in hindsight, I think it was a good fit. For me, I was looking for, again, positive karma. You're with a small group of people, usually 4 or 5 residents per class, so that's a grand total, like around 15 people. You want people that you're going to get along with. You don't want bullies or mean people. So I really, really loved my co-residents. I really picked the program for that, for the co-residents. And it was nice facilities. I loved the location. It was someplace new. It wasn't that expensive, so it worked for me. It's definitely a big move from San Francisco to Connecticut. I'd never lived there before, but I wanted to try something different. So it was cool. What I didn't realize is that there was going to be a lot of hazing, not from the other residents, but from some of the members of the faculty, like bad hazing, which I think is extremely illegal at this point. Maybe what you could get away with, 20 years ago, you can't get away with now, but terrible hazing. And if I told you some of the stuff that they made us do, which was not even related to dentistry, in order to stay in the program, you'd be appalled. So for the most part, I refused to do a lot of the stuff I was told I had to do because it had nothing to do with dentistry. You can't make me walk your dog or clean your rain gutters or hang up your Christmas lights or babysit your kid just because I'm a resident. I'm not your slave. So I hate to use that word, but basically that's the way we were treated. Being forced to do things that weren't even related to what we were doing just to keep our spot in the program. So that's not acceptable. So I didn't do it. So as a result, I didn't get as much funding or grants that like a lot of other people in my program did. So really, the more you kissed ass, the more money you got. So I was at the bottom of the barrel, the black sheep, whatever. We were all kind of sorted. There were people that were white sheep, black sheep. It was regularly said, So I was like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm here to learn. I'm going to do what I need to do to get to see as many patients, to do the program, but I'm not going to do stuff outside the program, to be somebody's lackey. So there's a lot of garbage that goes on. There's a lot of hazing. There's also hazing in medical residency. So I didn't know about that. Certainly during the rush portion where you're interviewing, everyone's putting on their best smile, like trying to get the best possible residents, because it's not good for your program if you don't get good residents, right? So we were told we could not mention that at all. So I always felt kind of bad when we were on the other side, but I knew everyone would get through it eventually, but it wasn't fun. Those 3 years were the worst 3 years of my life. Terrible, awful. And I'm sure my co-residents will see it. And a lot of people have spoken out, but it's not okay to harass people for the color of their skin, for how they do their hair. It's not okay to make fun of people's color, of their ethnicity, to make racial jokes. Certainly there was a lot of that. And, that's not acceptable. It really, really hurts people, permanently when you treat people like that. So, just pick your residents. I really hope that some of these dental schools will clean house on some of these really toxic program directors, because that's just wrong, to treat people like that and to basically abuse and haze people is what goes on in residencies all the time. So if I had to do it again, would I specialize? Probably not. So it was miserable, and you can do everything and learn everything without having to go to a residency. So for all of you who are thinking about specializing, why? I don't see the point. So anyways, hopefully this was helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me, StraightSmileSolutions.com. Thanks.